Marissa, I don't know if you saw them too live, but the ice dancers from the United States that were heavily favored to win the gold medal, Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, uh, as Kendall Coyne calls it, losing gold, taking silver. And there's a bit because they came in as the favorites and seemed to pull off a mistake free, really good run that. Do you call it runs? No. Dance? Skate?
Program's the word you're looking
Sorry.
for. Yeah,
They
no
they
worries.
seem to pull off a mistake free program. Can you call this? There's been a lot of debate about the French judge being nationalistic. Can you call this a judging scandal? Is that too aggressive?
I would say, I think for me, I would probably use the word controversy, right? Because figure
Yeah.
skating, when it comes to judging, is very subjective, especially when it comes to ice dance. When you look at figure skating in terms of sort of like the men's individual or pairs, a lot of that is very much about technical execution and how hard your skills are. But when it comes to ice dance, a lot of it really is art. It is just like dance, which is completely subjective. However, the big issue, I've seen a lot of people talking about sort of this 8-point change between the French judge and the rest of the judges in terms of kind of how big his spread was that he judged for the French couple that won. And I think the other interesting part about it is that you do see a couple of other judges that also scored the French pair higher than the American pair. And what is odd is that from a viewer standpoint, when you're looking at it and you're not a figure skater and you're not a figure skating judge, there are moments in that French pair's final that you look at it and you say, I saw them fall out. They were not,
Right. Mistakes.
executing these correctly. There were
Yeah.
visible mistakes to an untrained eye. And so I think that is where the controversy has become such a big deal.
Right.
They could have challenged the score within 24 hours of the actual scores being finalized, which they ultimately decided not to do. And Team USA has said that they're going to support the decision of Madison and Evan to not do that and to focus on this. But I think also one of the bigger things that we heard Madison Bates talk about is sort of the idea that the judging needs to be a little bit more transparent for fans that are watching from home, because it does feel like an upset that was shocking. And they did ask her when they watched the French pair go, did they think that they had the gold medal? And they said yes.
Right.
So I think the tough part is that it does feel like there is this large gap where one judge, who obviously is scoring his own country's pair, is able to influence the judging this much. And it's tough. I do think from an untrained eye, it looked like there was a clear winner, and it's not who ended up standing on the top step of that podium.
I was like, this is what pisses me off about figure skating. Like, this
Right.
happens. We had the skate gate in 2002?
Yes.
Where, again, a French judge was like, well, I felt a little more pressure to vote for the Russian pair. And then they had to award all four of them after that and disqualify the judge. But I'm like, come on. Anyways, I did feel awful. Okay, I'll move on from that. I'm calling it a scandal. I don't care what anyone says. Come on, let's be better, people. I also feel awful for Michaela Schifrin. But because she's raced in 2 races, she hasn't podium yet. But we have to talk about the Italian skier, Federica Brignone. I
Yes.
mean, she should absolutely be celebrated. So do you want to give the party people some background on her?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of my favorite stories actually so far
Yeah,
out of this,
agree.
because there's been also one of the things that's been really fun about this Olympics is Italy has really been performing very well on home turf, basically home ice, home snow, however you want to put it. But when it comes to Federica, she was actually also going through this same injury that we've seen so many of our skiers have to deal with this year, which was she previously had a torn ACL and a fractured leg, and she was able
In
yes.
April of 2025.
And I think
That's
what's
insane.
What's wild about this too is we're looking at it and we're seeing so many women dealing with the same injury and being able to rehab it and being able to get back on their skis and get into Olympic level competition. And it's just wild. It's wild to see how quickly they're able to do this. And she's doing so at 35. We've talked a lot about Lindsey Vohn's age and about that injury for her, and I think 35 is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And like literally, I read somewhere that she only was able to get in like two pre-Olympic races, like trial runs before she was even able to ski. And now she's a double gold medal winning skier
Back
at
to back,
35.
which is just wild.
Yeah.
It's an insane feat to be able to do something like that.
Yeah. Super G on Thursday, giant slalom gold on Sunday, back to back. Slow.
Yes.
Clap. Oh, yay. It is hard to believe, though, Marissa, that the winningest skier in the sport has only, and that's Michaela Schifrin, has only 2 victories in 12 Olympic races across 4 Olympic Games. And she's planning on one more race in Cortina. So let's go, Michaela. It's one of her strongest, the slalom. She's won, 7 of the 8 World Cup races this season in the slalom. So come on, Michaela.
Incredible. I hope to see her do it. I will say it has been a theme of these games that we're seeing favorites come in and not actually have this sort of lay down win. We saw it with Ilya Malinin. We've seen it with how tight the fight was for gold for the U.S. in the figure skating team event. We saw it with the figure skating ice dance pair that we just talked about. We're seeing a lot of people who, Chloe Kim. Yeah, exactly.
Chloe Kim. Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of this where it's interesting. I think, there's a lot of different elements of it. And sometimes I think there's the element of Olympics, competing on the Olympic stage can be a very intense situation. But also on the other side, you've got people who are, with an Italian skier being able to do this on her home turf, with a Kazakhstan figure skater being able to bring home gold for his country. Yeah. Sometimes the Olympics are letting you rise to the occasion in a way that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah, which is what I love particularly about Winter Olympics, because there's just so much on the line. Yes. And we joke about this in a sense that it's like, it does feel, Abby and I were saying earlier, it's like every race feels like life or death almost, and it could be. That's the crazy thing, right? Outside of maybe curling, but I mean they're sweeping for their lives maybe, but it's intense.
And, it is. I will say one of my favorite things about the Winter Games is when I was kind of doing the series, prepping for the games and talking about the history of each of them. So many of them come out of sort of like just we were either frozen somewhere and really bored, which is curling, which happened in Scotland, or we were like doing war games and survival games, so like biathlon, and we wanted to ultimately figure out who was best at it. And I think that's why the Winter Olympics seem so intense. Is so much of the history of those sports comes from just like literal survival.
Yes. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yes, maybe. Or like a dare gone bad. I don't know.
Yes.